I only needed a few things from the supermarket, but somehow a simple shopping trip became a little adventure. It was Saturday afternoon, and I was at home. I opened my refrigerator and looked inside. There was almost no food. I had some water, a little milk, and one apple. That was all. I thought about dinner. I did not know what to make. So I decided to go to the supermarket. I made a quick shopping list. I needed bread, milk, eggs, cheese, rice, and some fruit. I also wanted to buy some coffee. I picked up my wallet, took my shopping bag, and left home. The supermarket was not far from my house. I usually walked there. It took about 10 minutes. The weather was nice, so I decided to walk. When I arrived, I took a shopping cart. I looked at my list again. Bread, milk, eggs, cheese, rice, fruit, and coffee. Easy, I thought. I can buy everything quickly. I walked to the bread section first. There were many kinds of bread. White bread, brown bread, small bread, big bread. I looked at the prices. I wanted a simple loaf of bread, so I picked one. Then I put it in my cart. Next, I went to the milk section. I found the milk quickly. I picked up a bottle and put it in my cart. Then I went to the eggs. There were many boxes of eggs. I looked at the boxes carefully. I wanted a small box. I picked one up and checked it. The eggs looked okay, so I put them in my cart. After that, I went to the cheese section. I like cheese, but I did not know which one to buy. There were many different kinds. I stood there for a minute. Then I picked a simple cheese. I put it in my cart. Everything was going well. I was happy because I was finding everything on my list. Then I went to the rice section. I looked at the shelves. There were many bags of rice. Some bags were small, some bags were very big. I did not need a big bag, so I chose a small one. Then I checked my list again. Bread, milk, eggs, cheese, rice, fruit, coffee. I still needed fruit and coffee. I walked to the fruit section. It was one of my favorite parts of the supermarket. There were apples, bananas, oranges, and grapes. The fruit looked fresh. I picked up some bananas. Then I chose a few apples. I also wanted some oranges. I put the fruit in a small bag and placed it in my cart. Then I looked at my list again. Only coffee was left. I went to the coffee section. There were many kinds of coffee. Some were cheap. Some were expensive. Some were in small bags. Some were in big bags. I looked at the prices. I wanted my usual coffee, but I could not find it. I looked at the shelf again. Nothing. I checked the shelf above it. Nothing. I looked on the other side. Still nothing. I started to feel a little confused. Where is the coffee? I thought. I walked around the section. I saw tea. I saw sugar. I saw hot chocolate. But I could not find my coffee. Then I saw a supermarket worker nearby. I walked over to him. "Excuse me," I said. "Where can I find the coffee?" He smiled and pointed to another section. "It's over there," he said. "Thank you," I said. I walked to the other section. And there it was. The coffee was on a different shelf. I laughed a little. I picked up my favorite coffee and put it in my cart. Now I had everything on my list. I looked at my cart. It was not very full, but it was enough for me. I went to the checkout. There were 3 people in front of me. I stood in line and waited. The line was moving slowly. I looked at my phone. I had a few messages. I answered one message. Then I put my phone away. A few minutes later, it was my turn. I put my things on the counter. The cashier scanned everything. Bread, milk, eggs, cheese, rice, fruit, coffee. Then she told me the total. I reached into my pocket for my wallet, but suddenly I could not find it. I checked my jacket pocket. Nothing. I checked my other pocket. Nothing. I felt nervous. I checked my bag. Nothing. I looked at the cart. Nothing. For a few seconds, I did not know what to do. My heart started beating faster. I thought, did I leave my wallet at home? I checked my bag one more time. Still nothing. I felt very worried. Then I remembered something. I had put my wallet in a small pocket inside my jacket. I checked that pocket. And there it was. My wallet. I felt so relieved. I smiled and said, "Here it is." I paid for my shopping. Then I put everything into my shopping bag. I thanked the cashier and left the supermarket. When I went outside, I took a deep breath. I was happy. I had everything I needed. But I also felt a little tired. The shopping bag was heavier than I expected. I started walking home. After a few minutes, I stopped. I looked inside my bag. The bread was at the top. The fruit was under the bread. The milk was at the bottom. Everything was okay. I continued walking. When I arrived home, I put everything in the kitchen. I put the milk in the refrigerator. I put the cheese in the refrigerator too. Then I put the fruit on the kitchen table. I put the rice in the kitchen cabinet. Finally, I put the coffee next to the coffee machine. I looked at my shopping list. I had bought everything. I smiled. It was a simple shopping trip, but it took more time than I expected. I learned something important that day. A shopping list is very helpful. Without my list, I might forget something. I also learned to check my wallet before I leave home. I did not want another little surprise at the checkout. Later that evening, I made dinner. I cooked rice and eggs. I also had some cheese and an apple. It was a simple meal, but it was good. After dinner, I made a cup of coffee. I sat at the table and enjoyed it. I looked around my kitchen. The refrigerator was full again. The kitchen looked better. I felt comfortable. I was glad that I went to the supermarket. Now, when I need to go shopping, I usually make a list first. I check my wallet. I take my shopping bag. Then I go to the supermarket. Sometimes I buy more things than I planned. Sometimes I see something I like and put it in my cart. But I always try to remember the important things: bread, milk, eggs, fruit, and, of course, coffee. So that was my little shopping trip. I only needed a few things, but I had a small problem with my wallet and a little trouble finding my coffee. In the end, everything was fine. I came home, made dinner, and enjoyed a quiet evening. And next time I go to the supermarket, I will check my wallet first. I really don't want to look for it at the checkout again.